The door. That slammed. The night was cold in the colony, darker than usual. The wind moved through the empty streets like a whisper of warning, a sound that made everyone walk faster, close their doors tighter, and pretend they did not hear the cries of strangers. She stood outside the metal gates, a tall figure covered in a torn cloak. Her skin had a soft silver glow under the pale moonlight. Her eyes were wide with fear but filled with a strange dignity. She was an alien widow. Her husband lost in the war that humans never wanted to talk about. Now she had nowhere to go. No home, no family, and no protection. She had walked for days, across the barren land, following the light of the human colony, hoping that maybe here, among humans, she would find kindness. She had heard stories before, how humans were strange creatures, capable of both cruelty and compassion. But tonight, her hope was all she had. Please. Her voice cracked as she spoke to the guards at the gate, her words translated through a small device hanging at her throat. I need shelter. Just for the night the cold will kill me. The guards looked at her as if she was dirt. One of them spit on the ground and laughed. Shelter? For your kind? Not here, alien. This colony is for humans only. Her heart dropped. She stepped closer, hands trembling. I will work, I will clean, I will do anything you ask, just don't leave me outside. The second guard pushed the gate harder. The heavy metal slammed in her face. The echo rang through the silent night. It was more than just a sound. It was rejection. It was a wall between her and survival. The widow staggered back, pulling her cloak tighter. The cold air stabbed into her lungs. Her eyes filled with tears. But she did not let them fall. She had cried too many times already when her husband died, when her people cast her out, when every door she knocked on was closed against her. Behind the gate, the guards chuckled, their voices cruel. She'll freeze by morning, one said. Better that way. Less trouble. She turned away slowly, her legs weak. She thought of lying down right there on the ground, letting the night take her. Maybe it was easier than begging again. But then, footsteps echoed behind her. Not the guards this time. But someone else, a man in plain work clothes carrying a small tool bag, had stopped to watch. He was human, but not like the guards. His eyes did not hold mockery. They held something else. Conflict, pity, and maybe courage. He had seen the scene, seen the cruelty, seen the slamming door. His name was Daniel, just another worker in the colony. Nothing special, no power, no rank. Yet his heart felt heavy as he looked at the widow. She turned her face toward him, her silver eyes shining in the dark. She whispered, Do I not deserve life? Am I so hated? Daniel froze. His mind screamed at him to walk away, to not get involved. The rules of the colony were clear. No alien was allowed inside. Those who broke the rule were punished. But his heart ached at the sight of her shaking hands and broken body. For a moment, the whole colony felt silent. The wind stopped. The stars above seemed to wait for his answer. The widow took a step back, ready to leave, ready to vanish into the night when Daniel finally spoke, his voice low but firm. Wait. The word cut through the cold like fire. She turned again, hope flickering faintly in her tired eyes. Daniel looked at the closed gate, then at the widow. His fists clenched at his sides. He knew the danger, he knew the risk, but something inside him refused to let her die tonight. The guards shouted from behind the gate, Move along, worker, don't waste your breath on her. But Daniel did not move. He stood tall, his shadow long in the moonlight, his voice steadier this time. No one deserves to be left out to die. The widow gasped softly, her heart pounding. Was this human truly willing to defy his own kind for her? The guards grew restless, one of them warned. Walk away, Daniel, before you regret it. Yet Daniel took one slow step closer to the widow, his eyes never leaving hers. The night had become heavier. Every second stretched like eternity, and then in the silence the truth became clear. The door might have slammed shut, but maybe, just maybe, another had opened in that moment. One made not of steel, but of human courage. The widow did not know yet if he would save her, if he would risk everything for a stranger. But her heart whispered that something had changed, that her story was no longer ending in the cold. The colony slept unaware, but The night had already chosen its players, a human, an alien widow, and the dangerous path of compassion that would lead them both into shadows far darker than the cold. The door had slammed. Yes, but a new fight was about to begin. A human's. Choice Daniel stood frozen in the middle of the street, the cold wind hitting his face, his heart beating like a hammer. He looked at the alien widow shivering under her torn cloak, her silver skin glowing faintly in the moonlight. She looked fragile, yet strong in spirit. He knew what he had just done by speaking up. Even one word of kindness toward an alien could bring him trouble. The colony was strict. The rules were iron, humans first, outsiders never. Those who disobeyed risked fines, prison or worse. The widow lowered her head, her voice quiet but full of pain. You don't have to help me, human. I will walk away. I will try again tomorrow somewhere else. I don't want you to suffer because of me. But Daniel shook his head. If I let you go, you won't survive the night. His words were soft but heavy. He could see the fear in her eyes, the way her hands shook, the way her breath turned to mist in the freezing air. The guards behind the gate laughed, their voices sharp and cruel. What's wrong, Daniel? You want a pet alien? Take her home, see how long before you lose your job, your rations, your bed. Daniel ignored them, but their words cut deep. He had nothing much in the colony, just a small room, a simple job repairing pipes and broken vents. He lived quiet, unnoticed, surviving like everyone else. If he chose to help her, all of that could be destroyed. Yet when he looked into her eyes, he felt something stir inside him, something he had not felt in years. Humanity. He took a slow breath. Come with me, he whispered. The widow gasped, her heart raced. You would risk yourself for me? Daniel gave a half smile, though his chest felt heavy. I don't know why, but yes. She followed him cautiously, her steps weak, but her spirit clinging to this small thread of hope. Every shadow on the street felt like danger. Every corner could hide an informer. Daniel walked fast, leading her through the narrow alleys of the colony, his mind alert, his hands sweating. He kept glancing back, making sure no patrols were following. The widow kept her cloak tight, her head low. She whispered softly, My husband used to tell me humans had brave hearts, but I never thought one would beat for me. Daniel did not reply, his throat tight. He wondered what he was doing, wondered if tomorrow he would regret everything. But right now, he only knew one truth. If he left her outside, she would die, and he would carry that guilt forever. Finally, they reached a worn-down building on the edge of the colony, Daniel's home, a narrow room with cracked walls and a single bed. He opened the door quickly and pulled her inside, closing it behind. Then the widow looked around surprised. This is where you live? Daniel shrugged. It's not much, but it's warm and safe for now. She stood near the corner, her body tense. She seemed afraid even here, as if expecting him to throw her out at any moment. Daniel noticed and spoke gently. You can stay tonight, rest, eat, then tomorrow. We'll figure something out. The widow's eyes filled with tears. She tried to speak, but no words came. Instead, she sank slowly to her knees, her silver hands pressed to the floor. I am in your debt, human. No one has shown me kindness, since the war took everything from me. Daniel quickly knelt and lifted her back up, shaking his head. Don't kneel, don't thank me, just survive. For a moment, silence filled the small room, broken only by the hum of the old heater. Daniel pulled out half a loaf of bread and a small tin of water, handing them to her. She accepted with trembling hands, eating carefully, as though each bite was a blessing. As she ate, she whispered her story, her voice raw with memory. The war destroyed my world. My husband died defending our home. After that, my own people turned on me. They said I brought bad luck. A widow is a burden. They cast me out. I walked for days, weeks, searching for mercy, but every door slammed shut. Daniel listened in silence, his fists clenched, his anger rising at the cruelty of both aliens and humans. He realized she had been carrying a weight no one should carry. He could see the scars on her arms, the exhaustion in her face, and yet she was still alive, still fighting to exist. When she finished, she looked at him with eyes that glowed softly in the dim light. Why you, Daniel? Why did you choose me when all others turned away, Daniel? Looked down, struggling to find an answer. Finally, he said quietly, because someone had to, and maybe I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. Her lips trembled. She turned her face away so he would not see the tears that finally escaped. She had thought her life would end tonight in the cold, but now she was sitting in a human's shelter, fed, alive, and for the first time in years, she felt hope. Outside, the colony was silent, but danger was never far. Already the guards might be whispering. Already neighbors might be watching. Tomorrow could bring punishment, discovery, or betrayal. Daniel knew all of this, yet as he watched her drift into a restless sleep on the small blanket he offered, he made a silent promise. He would not let her die, no matter what the colony said. And so, with one choice, his quiet life was shattered, and a storm began to form around him, a storm that would change both their destinies. Hunted by fear. The morning sun rose over the colony. Weak and pale, the air was still cold, but now the streets filled with workers moving to their jobs, children running, vendors shouting, and guards patrolling with sharp eyes. It looked normal, but for Daniel, nothing felt normal anymore. Inside his small room, the alien widow sat quietly, her silver hands folded in her lap, her face tired but calmer than last night. Daniel watched her, his mind heavy. He had broken the rules. He had brought danger into his life. And yet, he did not regret it. You should not stay here long, Daniel whispered. Someone will notice, and if they find you, they will take you away. And punish me too. The widow nodded slowly, her voice soft. I know. I will leave soon. But I needed one night to live, and you gave me that. Even if I die tomorrow, I will remember you. Daniel clenched his fists. No, you will not die tomorrow, not while I'm alive. His words were firm, surprising even himself. But outside, suspicion was already growing. Neighbors had seen Daniel walking late at night, leading someone through the alleys. Whispers spread like smoke. People asked questions. Who was that figure with him? Why did he look so nervous? And soon, rumors reached the ears of the guards. Midday, 2 enforcers knocked on Daniel's door, their boots heavy, their voices harsh. Worker Daniel, open up! Daniel froze, his heart pounding. The widow's eyes widened in fear. She whispered, They've come for me. Quiet, Daniel mouthed. He gestured for her to hide, quickly pulling a loose board from the floor. Beneath it was a shallow space, a place he sometimes used to store tools. Not meant for a person, but big enough for her to curl inside. Go, he whispered, helping her slip under, her cloak pulled tight around her, her breathing shallow. He replaced the board just as the door rattled again. Daniel opened it slowly, forcing a tired smile. What is it? The guards pushed inside without asking, their eyes sharp. We had reports of someone moving around with you last night. Someone who does not belong here. Daniel forced a laugh. You think I have company? Look at this place. Does it look like I could hide anyone? The guards scanned the room. One kicked over a chair. Another opened his small food cabinet. Empty. Just crumbs of bread. Nothing unusual, but their suspicion remained. You know the rules, Daniel, one said coldly. Harboring outsiders is treason against the colony. If we catch anyone breaking this law, they pay dearly. Daniel nodded quickly, hiding his shaking hands. I know the rules, I follow them. After a tense silence, the guards finally left, slamming the door behind them. Daniel exhaled, sweat dripping down his forehead. He hurried to lift the board, pulling the widow out. She gasped for air, coughing, her body trembling. I thought they would find me. Daniel helped her sit on the bed, whispering, They didn't, but they'll be back. They don't forget. They'll watch me now, every move I make. The widow's eyes filled with tears. You risk too much for me. I should leave. I should run before they catch you too. Daniel shook his head, anger burning in his chest. And go where? Out there, the cold will kill you, or the raiders will find you. You'll die either way. No. Better I risk myself than let you walk to death. The widow lowered her gaze, her voice trembling. Why are you so different, human? All others shut their doors. Even my own kind abandoned me. But you fight for me. Daniel swallowed hard, not knowing how to answer. Finally, he said, "Because I see you, not as alien, not as enemy, just as someone who deserves life." For the first time, she smiled faintly, a small, fragile smile, like sunlight breaking through clouds, but their fragile peace did not last. That evening, as Daniel went to collect his work tools, a neighbor stopped him, an old man with sharp eyes. "Be careful, boy. People are talking. They say you hide a stranger. They say you bring danger to us all." Daniel's chest tightened. He forced a casual tone. "Rumors, nothing more." The old man leaned closer, his whisper harsh. "Maybe, but rumors spread fast. Watch yourself." Daniel walked away quickly, but his mind spun. The net was tightening. Every whisper, every glance, every shadow felt like a threat, back in his room. The widow noticed his tension. "They know, don't they?" Daniel nodded slowly. "Not yet, but soon." He paused, then spoke firmly. "If they come again, I'll protect you, even if it costs me everything." Her eyes widened. Silver, light glimmering in them, she whispered, "Why would you sacrifice so much for me?" Daniel looked at her, his voice steady. "Because no one else will, and I won't stand by and watch you die." The room grew silent, heavy with unspoken truth. Outside, the colony lights flickered, the patrols moved, and the whispers grew louder. The hunt had begun. The fear was real. Daniel and the widow both knew it. Every step, every breath, every night from now on would be a fight to stay hidden, to stay alive. And somewhere in the shadows of the colony, betrayal was already waiting, the humans' promise. The night was heavy again, the cold pressing against the thin walls of Daniel's small room. The alien widow sat on the edge of the bed, her silver hands clasped tightly, her eyes fixed on the floor. Daniel worked silently in the corner, fixing a broken vent with trembling hands. Neither spoke for a long time, both lost in thought. The tension from the day hung in the air like smoke. Finally, the widow whispered, "I cannot stay, Daniel. They will find me, and you will be punished." "I cannot let that happen," Daniel looked up sharply, shaking his head. "No, you won't leave. Not into the cold, not while I can still help." The widow's voice cracked. "But you will lose everything, your job, your home, even your freedom. Why risk all that for me?" Daniel placed the tool down, his jaw tight. "Because I gave you shelter and because I promised myself I wouldn't let you die. Not when I had the chance to change it." Her silver eyes glistened. She wanted to argue, but something in his voice stopped her. It was not just kindness. It was a vow. Daniel pulled out the last of his bread and broke it in half, handing the piece to her. She hesitated. "This is all you have, and it's enough for two," Daniel replied, forcing a small smile. She accepted, her fingers brushing his hand lightly. A strange warmth passed between them. As they ate, she began to speak of her world, her voice soft but steady. "On my home planet, when a husband dies, the widow becomes cursed in the eyes of many. They say her shadow brings misfortune, so they push her away, leave her to starve. I wandered from city to city, begging for scraps, always turned away until I came here, and the humans shut their doors too." Daniel listened, anger building inside him. "No one deserves that," he muttered. "Not you, not anyone." She looked at him, surprised. "Why do you say that? Most humans call us invaders, enemies, threats." Daniel sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Because war changes everything. It makes people forget we're all just trying to live. It makes them see enemies instead of people." Her lips trembled and she whispered, "And you? What do you see when you look at me?" Daniel met her gaze, his voice calm but certain. "I see someone who refuses to give up. Someone who still fights to live even when the universe has turned against her. That's what I see." For a moment, silence filled the room, her breath caught. Tears formed in her eyes, but this time she did not hide them. She let them fall. Daniel didn't look away. He let her cry. Then came the knock, heavy and sudden. Both of them froze. Daniel's heart raced, the widow stiffened. "Open up!" a voice boomed. It was one of the guards. Daniel quickly motioned her to hide again. She slipped under the loose floorboard, holding her breath. Daniel opened the door slowly, forcing calm. The guard stepped inside, eyes scanning the room. "We've had reports again, Daniel. People say they hear voices, say you're hiding something." Daniel shrugged, keeping his voice steady. "Voices? Maybe the pipes, they groan at night. My neighbors love to imagine things." The guard frowned, stepping closer. "If we find you breaking the law, you'll wish you hadn't been born," he growled. Daniel forced a laugh. "I fix vents and pipes, not laws." After another tense moment, the guard finally left, slamming the door. Daniel exhaled slowly, then pulled the floorboard up, helping the widow out. She gasped, her body shaking. I thought that was the end." Daniel put a hand on her shoulder, steady and firm. "As long as I'm here, no one will take you." Her eyes searched his face, uncertain but filled with something new. Trust. That night she spoke again, her voice low. "In my culture, when someone saves a widow, it is more than an act of mercy. It is a bond, a promise, one that cannot be broken." Daniel listened, unsure of how to respond, but he finally said, "Then consider the promise made. I won't let you go, not to death, not to fear." She looked at him, her lips parting as if to speak, but no words came. Instead, she simply nodded, a silent agreement sealed in the dark. The heater hummed softly. The night grew colder, but inside that small room, something else grew warmer. A bond not of race, not of blood, but of survival and choice. Daniel knew the colony would not stop hunting. He knew betrayal could come any moment, but he also knew one truth: he would protect her no matter the cost. And as the widow finally lay down to sleep, her trust resting fully in him, Daniel sat awake by the door, eyes fixed on the shadows outside, whispering to himself, "They'll have to go through me first." It was not just a choice anymore, it was a promise, a human's promise. Betrayal and discovery. The days passed with heavy silence. Daniel worked his daily job, fixing broken pipes, patching air vents, tightening loose bolts in the colony, but his mind was never on the work. His thoughts always ran back to the small room where the alien widow waited, hidden, afraid. Every step home filled him with fear. What if the guards had searched his place while he was gone? What if someone had reported him? What if she had been dragged away? Each evening he opened his door, holding his breath, only calming when he saw her sitting quietly, waiting. The widow tried to stay small and invisible, but the room was tiny, and her presence could not stay hidden forever, she whispered when he returned. She shared stories of her people, her husband, the traditions of her world. She cooked simple meals from the scraps Daniel brought, always careful, always quiet. But outside, the whispers grew. A neighbor, a bitter man named Harris, had watched Daniel closely. Harris never liked him, always jealous that Daniel still had steady work while he struggled with odd jobs. When Harris saw Daniel bring extra food home one night, his suspicion sharpened. "He lives alone," Harris muttered to himself. "So who is he feeding?" The next day, Harris followed Daniel from a distance, eyes sharp. He saw Daniel pause at the market, hesitating, buying food enough for two. Harris smiled coldly. He had found something valuable, something he could use. That evening, Harris went to the guard station, his voice oily. "I have information, Daniel the worker. He's hiding something. I've heard voices. I've seen him buy more food than one man needs. Check his place, you'll see." The guards listened, their eyes narrowing. They didn't like Daniel ever since he spoke back at the gate. They were waiting for proof. Now they had it. Back in Daniel's room. The widow sensed his unease. She asked softly, "What troubles you tonight?" Daniel rubbed his forehead. "It's nothing." But his voice betrayed him. She pressed, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "Tell me," Daniel exhaled. "Someone is watching me. I can feel it if they speak to the guards." He trailed off, the fear heavy in his chest. The widow touched his hand gently. "Then you must let me go. I will run before they come. I will not let them destroy you for me." Daniel shook his head sharply, his grip tightening around her hand. No, I told you, I made a promise. I won't let them take you, not while I can still fight. Her lips trembled. She wanted to argue, but his eyes burned with determination. Then came the sound. Boots, heavy boots outside the door. Daniel's heart jumped. The widow froze, her breath caught. Voices shouted, "Open up, Daniel, by order of the colony guards." Daniel moved quickly, pulling up the loose board. "Hide," he whispered. She slid inside, curling tight. The floor closed over her just as the door slammed open. The guards stormed in, Harris smirking behind them. "Well, what do we have here?" the captain sneered. "A loyal worker or a liar?" Daniel forced calm. "What is this? You can't just storm into my home." The guard shoved him against the wall. "We can do whatever we like when there are rumors of outsiders." They tore through the room, pulling blankets, opening cabinets, smashing the little furniture he had. Harris laughed quietly, enjoying every moment. Daniel clenched his fists, rage burning. But he stayed silent, his mind screaming, "Don't find her. Don't find her." One guard stomped near the floorboard. The widow held her breath beneath, her heart pounding so hard she thought they would hear it. The guard leaned down, tapping the wood, frowning. Daniel's blood ran cold, but then another shouted, "Nothing here, sir, just crumbs and trash." The captain sneered at Daniel. "Consider this a warning, worker. If we find anything next time, you'll hang with the outsiders." They left, slamming the door. Harris gave Daniel one last smug smile before following them. The silence after was suffocating. Daniel dropped to his knees, pulling the board open. The widow gasped as she emerged, shaking, her silver eyes wide with terror. "I thought they would find me." Daniel pulled her close without thinking, his arms strong around her. "They didn't, they won't, I won't let them." Her body shook against his, but slowly she relaxed, his words sinking in, his warmth steady against her fear. After a long silence, she whispered, "You risked everything tonight, why?" Daniel's voice was low but firm. "Because I don't care what they say, I don't care about the rules, I care about what's right, and letting you die out there is wrong." Her tears fell freely now, not of fear but of something else. Hope, trust, maybe even something stronger. Daniel leaned back, looking into her eyes. "No matter what comes, I'll stand with you. Even if the whole colony turns against me, that's my promise." And though fear still lingered, though betrayal had already opened the path to danger, in that small, broken room, a human and an alien widow forged a bond that no law, no guard, no betrayal could erase. The storm was coming, they both knew it, but now they would face it together. The stand. The colony was restless, rumors spreading like fire through dry grass. Daniel's name whispered in the markets, muttered in the alleys, spoken in the guard posts. Some said he was hiding an alien. Some said he had betrayed his kind. Others said he had gone mad. Daniel felt the weight of every glance, every whisper, but he did not break. Each night when he returned to his small room and saw the widow alive, breathing, waiting for him, he knew he had chosen right, but the betrayal of Harris had changed everything. The guards were no longer suspicious. They were hunting. 3 nights. Later, the storm came. Boots thundered on the street outside, torches glowing, voices shouting, "By order of the colony, open this door." Daniel's heart pounded. The widow looked at him with terror in her eyes. "Daniel, it's the end." He shook his head, his voice steady. "Not if I can help it." The door crashed open before he could move. 6 guards stormed inside, their rifles raised. Harris followed with his smirk, eager to watch. "There she is," one of the guards shouted, his eyes catching the widow before she could hide, her silver skin glowing faintly in the firelight. The captain stepped forward, sneering. "So it's true, Daniel. You broke the law. You brought filth into our colony." He raised his hand. "Take her." The widow froze, her body trembling, but Daniel stepped in front of her, his arms spread wide, his voice strong. "No, you won't touch her." The guards paused, surprised. Harris laughed. "Look at him, protecting a monster." Daniel's fists clenched, his voice roared, louder than he had ever spoken before. "She is not a monster. She is a widow, alone, starving, and you would let her die because of rules? What kind of humans are we if we cannot show mercy?" The guards shifted, Uncomfortably, some looked away. The captain snarled, "Enough! Step aside or you'll share her fate." Daniel did not move. His eyes burned, his chest rose with every furious breath. "Then so be it," the widow gasped behind him. Her silver eyes filling with tears, she whispered, "Daniel, don't—" But he raised his hand slightly, silencing her, his gaze never leaving the soldiers. The standoff grew heavy, the room thick with tension. Neighbors gathered outside, drawn by the noise. Their faces pressed to the windows, whispers filled the night. "He's protecting her," someone muttered. "He's defying the guards." The captain barked, "He is a traitor." But Daniel's voice cut through the noise, strong, fierce. "No, I am a human, a true human, and humanity means standing for what's right, even if it costs me everything." The guards hesitated, their rifles shaking slightly. Some were young, some unsure. The widow clutched her cloak, staring at Daniel as if he were more than just a man, as if he were a shield forged by courage itself. The captain raised his weapon, fury burning in his eyes. "Last chance, Daniel!" Daniel stood taller, his voice steady. "You'll have to kill me first." Silence struck like thunder. The crowd outside gasped. The widow's breath caught. Time itself seemed to freeze. And then, something unexpected happened. One of the younger guards lowered his rifle, his voice trembling. "Captain, he's right." The captain spun. "What?" The guard swallowed, his eyes darting between Daniel and the widow. "She's no threat. She's just trying to live. And he's risking everything to protect her, maybe. Maybe we are wrong." Another guard shifted uneasily, lowering his weapon too. Whispers rippled through the crowd outside, murmurs of agreement, of doubt. The captain growled, his power slipping. "You dare defy orders?" But Daniel stepped forward, his voice rising. "If protecting the helpless is treason, then I am guilty. If showing compassion is weakness, then I am weak. But I will not stand aside while an innocent is dragged to her death." The widow's tears fell freely now. Her voice broke as she whispered, "Daniel." The crowd outside grew louder, voices shouting, "He's right. Let her stay. Enough with the cruelty." The captain's face twisted with rage, but he saw it. His men uncertain, the people watching, the strength in Daniel's stance, the unbreakable fire in his eyes. Slowly, the captain lowered his hand, spitting to the side. "This isn't over," he snarled, motioning to his men. "Fall back." The guards withdrew reluctantly. Harris shouted in protest, "You can't let them go. He broke the law." But no one listened. The crowd turned on him, their eyes filled with disgust. Daniel stood in the doorway, his chest heaving, his fists still clenched, the widow at his side, trembling but alive. For the first time, the colony had witnessed it. Not just an act of defiance, but the stand of one human against fear, against cruelty, against the cold. Daniel turned to the widow, his voice softer now. "I told you no one will take you. Not while I stand." She stared at him, her heart pounding, her silver eyes glowing with something new. Not just fear, not just gratitude, but faith. That night, the colony would not forget. They had seen a worker, an ordinary man, stand against the guards, against the law itself. And in the silence after the storm, one truth echoed clear. A human's courage had shifted the balance. The fight was no longer just survival. It was a war for compassion itself. Humanity wins. The night after Daniel's defiance was restless. The colony did not sleep. Word spread like fire in the wind. Neighbors whispered. Workers argued in the streets. Some were shocked, some were inspired, all were shaken. The guards had left, but not in silence. The captain's threat hung in the air. This isn't over, and Daniel knew it. Yet when he looked at the alien widow sitting quietly by the fire, he felt no regret. He had stood his ground, and he would do it again. The widow's silver eyes followed him as he moved about the room, her voice soft. "You risked everything for me, Daniel. I don't understand." "Why?" Daniel paused, his face in shadow. "Because if I turned away, I would lose the part of me that makes me human. Rules mean nothing if they strip us of mercy." She lowered her gaze, her heart pounding. She whispered, "Then your kind is not lost, not yet." At dawn, a summons came, heavy fists on the door, not soldiers this time, but a messenger. "Daniel, you are called before the council today." Daniel's stomach tightened. He knew this was the moment. His stand had drawn too much attention. Now the leaders would decide not just for him, but for the widow's life. He looked at her, her face pale. "I'll go," he said. "But whatever happens, don't be afraid. I'll keep my promise." The widow touched his arm, her voice trembling. "They will punish you. They may kill you." Daniel gave a faint smile. "Maybe. But if I die for what's right, I'll die as a man, not a coward." The council chamber was crowded, elders sitting in high seats, guards standing at the walls, citizens gathered outside, the air heavy with tension. The captain of the guards stepped forward, his voice sharp. "This man has broken the law. He harbored an alien, defied authority, and spread disobedience. He should be punished. The alien should be cast out or destroyed." Murmurs filled the hall, anger and fear mixing. But before the council could answer, Daniel stepped forward, his voice clear and strong. "Yes, I broke the law, but ask yourselves, what law did I truly break? The law of compassion? The law of humanity? If we call ourselves human, then leaving a widow to die in the cold is the real crime." Gasps echoed. The captain shouted, "Silence!" But Daniel's words carried, reaching the crowd outside. "I saw her," Daniel continued, pointing toward the widow who now stood behind him, her cloak pulled tight. "I saw her starving, freezing, abandoned, and I chose to help her, because no one else would, because that is what it means to be human. If mercy is treason, then I am guilty. But if mercy is strength, then I am proud." The widow stepped forward, her voice shaking but strong. "I did not come here to harm you. I am no soldier. I am no threat. I am only a widow, cast aside by my own people. I wanted only shelter, only a chance to live. And this man, this human, was the only one who saw me as more than a curse." Her words trembled in the air. Her silver eyes glowed faintly. And for the first time, the crowd did not look at her with hatred, but with shame. The council shifted uneasily. One elder whispered, "Perhaps we were wrong," but the captain roared, "If we allow one alien, others will follow. Our colony will fall. We must stay strong. We must stay pure." Daniel turned to him, his voice fierce. "Strength is not cruelty. Purity is not survival. Compassion is strength. Unity is survival. If we build walls so high we lose our humanity, then we've already fallen." Silence struck the hall. The crowd outside erupted in murmurs, then voices, then shouts. "He's right. Let her stay. Enough with fear." The tide shifted, the captain's face twisted with rage, but he saw it. The council listening, the crowd turning, the guards uncertain. He had lost. Finally, the eldest council member stood, his voice slow, but heavy. "The law was meant to protect us, not to kill us. This widow will not be cast out. She will be given shelter. She will live among us, and Daniel will not be punished." The hall exploded with noise. Cheers from the crowd, anger from the captain, tears from the widow. She fell to her knees, whispering, "I owe you my life, Daniel, twice over." Daniel bent down quickly, lifting her to her feet, shaking his head. "No, you don't owe me anything. You only owe yourself the chance to live." The people cheered louder. The captain stormed out, defeated. But Daniel stood tall, the widow at his side. In that moment, something changed in the colony. A single act of defiance had become a spark, a reminder of what it meant to be human. Later, as the night settled and the colony quieted, the widow stood with Daniel outside his small home, her voice soft but filled with wonder. "You changed everything, Daniel, with nothing but your heart." Daniel looked at her, his voice calm. "No, we changed everything, together." She smiled, her tears shining like silver in the starlight. For the first time in years, she felt safe. Not as an outcast, not as a burden, but as a person. And the colony, once a place of cold walls and closed doors, now carried a new story. Of a human who stood when no one else would. Of a widow who survived. And of the night when compassion defeated fear. The door that once slammed shut had opened forever. Humanity had won.